Hello and welcome back to the Jacksonville History Show. I'm Emily Rutherford Lisska, Executive Director of the Jacksonville Historical Society. And I know when I run into people on the street, they'll tell me when they think of the Jacksonville Historical Society, they think of our publication projects, our wonderful books that we publish. They think of our program series. We have speakers who come in annually and just give these fabulous programs, and also typically people think of our wonderful restoration projects. We restored Old St. Andrews, $1 million restoration, and the Jacksonville Historical Society also restored the James E. Merrill House, and that's been referred to in the earlier portion of the program. But what most people don't think of immediately, but I am convinced it is the most important thing that the Jacksonville Historical Society does, is archive the history of our city. And yes, we keep a major archival repository, and with me today is the collection manager for the Jacksonville Historical Society, Kate Bruce. Kate, I want to welcome you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And I should say collections manager because it is plural. And we've been lucky enough to have a collections manager since August. And this is new for the Historical Society, and we needed it greatly. And I'll say at the beginning, we just didn't come from tea.
Right.
And just because we're the Historical Society, we have not morphed in another dimension or year. It's not 1962. It actually is 2009. And we were wearing, tell everybody what we're wearing.
Sure, we're wearing these archival gloves because it's very important when you're handling important items like we're going to talk about in a little while, that you're wearing these gloves so that the oil from your fingers will not further damage these materials like photographs and booklets and things like that. So that's why we're wearing the gloves.
And of course there's some new theories recently. I've actually seen some shots, I believe, recently on television at the Smithsonian, and the archivists there, some of them are now not wearing gloves and just scrubbing up. There are all sorts of theories now.
It's always changing.
Always
changing.
And what we're going to do, we're going to show some of the treasures from the archives of the Jacksonville Historical Society, and actually some of the objects will have been given to us recently, others we've had a while. Now, the first that I'll begin, I'm going to hold these up, and Kate, perhaps you'd like to tell about these.
Sure.
They come from our collection of the Women's Club of Jacksonville objects, and some of the ones I'm holding up, I'll do my best.
Okay. Yes, we are very fortunate to have this collection in our archives, and what you see today are programs that date to 1903, so it's just great that we have these objects. And as you see right here, this is really fun to talk about, the Women's Dance Club dance roster, and you can see different steps that people were doing, like the waltz and the two-step. So it's kind of fun to take you back and think about things that people did back in 1903, and so that's in very good condition, and it's staying in good condition because we're wearing these gloves. And then other things like a program from 1903 that listed all the members of that year.
And it's really fun to see it, and I think the dance card was good for about 20 dances for the evening, and gentlemen would sign up, so they would reserve their dance with a lady. It wasn't exactly Dancing with the Stars. It was either the waltz or the two-step, waltz or the two-step. Those are the only two dances we noticed that night, but it sounded like pretty big fun for Jacksonville. And
they filled it up. So
the early 20th century. Now, to speak a little more about some of the other things, because we don't just collect old brochures and old programs, but we love that because it really tells the full story of life at other times in Jacksonville, Florida. Probably the most popular part of the collection would be the photograph collection.
They are. We have wonderful photographs, and this is another example of something from our archives. And this was given to us by Jim Gerard, and this is believed to be a photograph of the great Jake Godbold, the former mayor's great-grandparents. And as you can see, it's in wonderful condition. It's probably a copy of a photograph of the image, and dating to the 19th century. And this was taken from a studio, the Boss Studio. So it's a wonderful image.
And I just have to say, I'm going to leave this up one more second because I didn't say this when we recently ran this photograph in our newsletter, but anybody looking at this who does not know the person in his family, which grandparent Jake favored, great-grandparent. I think it's pretty clear it's grandmama. And Jake Godboll's great-grandparents. And yes, Jake Godboll was a great mayor as well. Kind of interesting, in the earlier segment on Baldwin, the Mayor Godboll that Mayor Topman was referring to actually is related to Jake Godboll.
Oh, wow,
and I wouldn't be surprised if this very photograph is from the Baldwin area. We do not know where it was taken at this time. We just know it was his great-grandparents. Kate, we have another object I'd like to show. We also collect diaries. Tell about this diary, because this is such an exciting...
It was a wonderful find. It was discovered by Barbara Hazel and Donna Barfield in an old attic in a Springfield home. And so stories like that, as the collections manager, it's always a lot of fun to hear the stories and the information about how they came across these items. And this is Bertha Livingston's diary. And Bertha Livingston was married to the prominent physician, Smart Pope Livingston. And they lived in a villa. And this diary dates to 1935, and as you can see, it's in great condition. The only thing that's really lacking is the loose binding. So, and you know, once we leave here, we'll put it back in its proper archival material, and that's just a wonderful find. So.
It is indeed. Now, of course, our archives are known, and what most archives primarily are, paper archives. Documents, journals, rare maps, books, brochures, and of course the ever-popular photograph, film, and as time goes on now, CD-ROMs and DVDs, and anything that tells the story of your city at any point in time, be it current or in the past. And sometimes historical societies make the mistake not to collect in the here and now, what is contemporary. But we also do collect some dimensional objects. So let's tell about, and we show them in our Merrill Museum House. So let's tell about a couple now.
Okay, these are fun to talk about as well. That is actually a hair receiver or hair catcher, and it's made of celluloid plastic, and that's the round object. And then the other object would be a glove stretcher.
Put this down.
And okay, I'll talk about the glove stretcher.
Sure. That's okay.
Back in the day, women never left the home without wearing gloves, and they were they're a lot fancier than what we're wearing right now. But when they left the home, it was the fashion of the day for them to be very form-fitting. So they would need something like this to put their gloves on and then take them off. And
it would actually stretch the gloves, particularly if they washed them or they got wet on a rainy day, perhaps. And this would stretch those fingers, so those delicate little gloves, and the hands always needed to look delicate, so you would not have purchased your gloves way too large. And so this wonderful glove stretcher. And so objects are important, just like the hat that's on the stand. And when we collect an object, we try very hard to make sure it does have a Jacksonville relationship. And not every single object always does, particularly in an exhibit house. But as far as our archives go, we certainly, our paper archives, all of those objects should relate to the city of Jacksonville in some way. And the general public, would you tell the public what we're looking for, you know, that we welcome those calls and we'll get those items?
Well, like you said, we have a diverse collection, which is wonderful. We recently accepted a donation from the Memorial Park Association, so that's one type of thing that we always are grateful to accept, are papers, correspondence, but also things like photographs, pamphlets, maps, just a diverse array of objects.
And I want to show a few more recent brochures, and I'll show these because we just took these in roughly a week or so ago. And this will give the public a great idea about what we do. Here's an old 1920s brochure on the Southern Railway system. Then you have another brochure. We have not been able to date this one yet.
No, so that'll be really fun to research and very important.
And this one we haven't dated. Investment opportunities in Jacksonville, Florida. Everybody would raise an eyebrow or two if they saw this today, but very interesting old brochure. And then certainly rare maps are another hot property for us.
And that's a great size because we're able to scan things like that into a program so that everyone in the public would, someday be able to see these objects and come in, and so that's a really great thing.
In fact, talk about that. I mean, what are the goals for the archives? Everybody see it. Explain that.
Well, right now we're using a program called Past Perfect, and this gives us the opportunity to input some of the things that you've seen today into this program so that eventually it will go on the internet, and people from Northeast Florida and all over will be able to see what we have in our archives. So we're really trying to get it out to the public, and things like the brochures and the photographs, and we've done tremendous work. We've been able to scan city council photographs. We're working on a glass plate negative collection, and so it's just really exciting what's going on here.
And the public should really know we literally have tens of thousands of photographs, tens of thousands of documents, and then we have just the good old vertical files that provide lots of information. Files we even use to research the photographs and items we take in. Now, I can't let the segment end without just mentioning some of the bigger blow-up photo, like the big blow-up photo here, just represents smaller, the actual photos we've taken in a collection that we might blow up and use later on. And we put those out in the wonderful hat. And, the hat being in the exhibit, I mean, certainly if that doesn't tell you that life was a little different, that ladies wouldn't leave their house without a hat.
And we also have the Gator coin purse, too, that is a real draw when we give tours at the Merrill House.
It is indeed. So we invite everybody to come see the wonderful objects we have, or to please think of the Jacksonville Historical Society before tossing an object.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Kate, I want to thank you so much for being here. I'm going to ask you to come back another time and show us some more of the treasures from the archives of the Jacksonville Historical Society. In just a moment, we'll be back with Jerry Spinks, and we'll wrap up the segment.